Okay, this is section 4 of chapter 10, and it's going to take a look at cognitive development. Cognitive development is the development of people's thought processes and how they change and evolve over time. The psychologist Jean Piaget divided cognitive development into 4 stages: the sensory motor, pre-operational, concrete operational, and formal operational. The psychologist Lawrence Kohlberg's theory of moral development has 3 stages: the pre-conventional, conventional, and post-conventional level. Each of these 3 levels is then further divided into 2 levels. So before we get into Piaget's theories, we're going to take a look at assimilation and accommodation. He believed that human beings use assimilation and accommodation to organize new information. Assimilation is the process by which new information is placed into categories that already exist, and accommodation is change brought about by new information. For example, a little girl might know the word doggy because her family has a pet collie. If she sees a Great Dane on the street and says doggy, she has assimilated the new information about the Great Dane into the category dog, even though the Great Dane looks and may act differently from her collie. If the same child sees a cat and says doggy, an adult will most likely correct her. Through such corrections, she will learn that the category dog does not apply to cats and that a new category is needed. This adjustment is an example of accommodation, a change brought about because of new information. So let's take a look at his first stage of cognitive development. It is the sensory motor stage. This stage is characterized by learning to coordinate sensation and perception with motor activity. It's also characterized by object permanence. Infants begin to understand that there is a relationship between their physical movements and the results they sense and perceive. Object permanence is the understanding that objects exist even when they cannot be seen or touched, and this is why little kids really enjoy the game of peekaboo. His second stage is the pre-operational stage. It is characterized by one-dimensional thinking and egocentrism. Pre-operational children think in one dimension. They can only see one aspect of a situation at a time. And this is evident in the fact that they don't understand the law of conservation. When pre-operational children are shown 2 identical tall, thin glasses of water, each filled to the same level, they know that both glasses hold the same amount of water. However, if water from one of the tall glasses is poured into a short, squat glass, the children say that the other tall glass contains more liquid than the short one. They say this even if they've watched the water being poured, because they focus only on what they're seeing at a given moment. Another characteristic of children in this stage is egocentrism, the inability to see another person's point of view. Pre-operational children assume that other people see the world just as they do. His next stage is the concrete operational stage. Children begin to show signs of adult thinking. They are logical only when they think about specific objects and concrete experiences. They focus on 2 dimensions of a problem at the same time. For this reason, they are going to understand the laws of conservation. They understand that a short, wide glass might contain the same amount of water as a tall, thin glass. They are also less egocentric than children in earlier stages. His last stage is the formal operational stage. People in this stage think abstractly. They can deal with hypothetical situations, they can solve problems, and use imagination. For example, they understand what is meant by the unknown quantity of x in algebra. They can work on geometry problems about lines, triangles, and squares without concerning themselves with how the problems relate to the real world. They can also deduce rules of behavior from moral principles. They focus on many aspects of a situation simultaneously when reasoning and solving problems. Some criticisms of Piaget's theories, they have questioned the accuracy of his views. Recent research indicates that preschoolers are less egocentric than Piaget's research suggested. However, his theories are still respected. All right, this second psychologist we're going to take a look at is Lawrence Kohlberg and his theories of moral development. As a stage theorist, Kohlberg believed that stages of moral development always follow a specific sequence. Children advance at different rates, however, and not everyone reaches the highest stage. Kohlberg theorized that there are 3 levels of moral development and 2 stages within each level. Children who use pre-conventional moral reasoning base their judgments on the consequences of behavior. In stage 1, children believe that what is good is what helps one avoid punishment. At stage 2, good is what satisfies a person's needs. People who are at the level of conventional moral reasoning make judgments in terms of whether an act conforms to conventional standards of right and wrong. These standards derive from the family, religion, and society at large. At stage 3, good is what meets one's needs and the expectations of other people. Moral behavior is what most people would do in a given situation. Stage 4 moral judgments are based on maintaining the social order. People in this stage have a high regard for authority. Research based on a person's own moral standards of goodness is called the reasoning based on a person's own moral standards of goodness is called post-conventional moral reasoning. Here, moral judgments reflect one's personal values and not conventional standards. Stage 5 reasoning recognizes that laws represent agreed upon procedures, that laws have value, and that they should not be violated without good reason, but laws cannot bind the individual in exceptional circumstances. Stage 6 reasoning regards acts that support human life, justice, and dignity as moral and good. People at stage 6 rely on their own consciences. They don't necessarily obey laws and agree with other people's opinions. There is some bias in Kohlberg's theory. Stages and scoring systems may have been biased to favor males. And that is it for Section 4. So a quick overview of Chapter 10's main ideas. Section 1 took a look at developmental psychology. It examines physical, social, and cognitive development and has the idea of heredity or nature versus environment and nurture. Section 2 looked at physical development. Humans go through a series of physical developments that are generally sequential. Section 3 took a look at social development, has much to do with parents' behaviors, histories, personalities, and abilities. And finally, Section 4 was cognitive development, how people's thought processes change and evolve over time. Jean Piaget and Lawrence Kohlberg are 2 influential theorists in cognitive development. And that is it for Chapter 10.